Sear, our non-stimulant, thermogenic, and recomposition agent. Sear is a super cool product because it's going to help you utilize turning your white adipose tissue, which is for storage of fat, into brown adipose tissue, which is going to help with energy production. So this is great to use for a competition prep or in your weight loss phase. So you can stack it with a stimulant-based thermogenic, or you could also use it in your off-season or muscle building phase to help keep you lean and mean. Sear.
All right, guys, welcome to the Pro Physique Code. Today we're interviewing Dan Devine, who was the most recent champion of our New Year, New You Transformation Challenge. This was a 90 days, which I'll have to get your input on this, Dan, but I think a lot of people think 90 days, no sweat, but it's a long time, right?
It is a long time. And thank you, Paul, for having me. Great to talk to you and great to talk to your audience today. Happy to share, answer any questions you have, and give you some insight into the journey I followed to get to this point. And yeah, challenge was great. 90 days is a long time. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're experimenting. Our current challenge, which is available now, is an 8-week one. We're going to see how that goes. We're trying to find the best solution to help everybody out. But 90 days, it's a little more than 12 weeks. And I think everyone starts off great the first couple weeks, and then you hit that middle patch. And we lose probably, I think, half the people. But I will say this was hands down the hardest to judge. Honestly, I think you winning was probably the most clear. It was very decisive. Okay. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of your diet. Sure. Because the thing that people will want to know is the naysayers. Well, how low were his calories? How high was his cardio? Those kind of things. How did you decide that, okay, this is my time, I'm going to make this change? And then let's talk a little bit about just how much weight you lost and all those things.
Sure thing. Yeah. So my journey started a little over 2 years ago when I was probably at my heaviest. And
what was the heaviest?
Probably around 200 pounds. Okay. I'm a medium build guy, so I'm 6 feet tall. So 200 pounds doesn't seem like a lot, but on my medium build, I was carrying it mostly in my sort of belly area there. And, my biggest issue was alcohol consumption, during COVID, working from home, not having to drive anywhere, that sort of thing. It just became too easy to, it's 5 o'clock, wherever. And, that became a routine, and that adds up. And, I'm 54 years old now, 2 years ago is 52. And I had tried I'd applied different rules for myself. Okay, not going to drink during the work week, not going to do this and so forth. And none of those things really stuck. There was always kind of a slippery slope into I had a bad day, so I'm going to, make an exception, and those exceptions kind of added up. So I decided, one day, May of 2022, why don't I just try not drinking at all? Not a temporary thing, and just sort of, try that out. And that sort of worked for me, and that kind of created some momentum, and then started focusing more on my health goals. Because when you're consuming alcohol, other things become a second priority. You can't really make progress in terms of fitness or other things, or just health wise, if your amount of alcohol consumption is too much, or it's a daily type of thing, which it was for me.
Let me ask you some questions. So, because COVID for me was a very similar thing. I already worked from home, but what I found was everyone in my neighborhood was home. So there was a lot more like Wednesday night parties and wine things. So was this like a social thing as well for you? Like just
a little bit. We actually had a bubble. We had neighbors who we kind of interacted with, but other than that, we kind of kept pretty much locked down. And so it was my wife and I opening a bottle of wine on a Tuesday night, and that's what it became. Yeah. So it was somewhat social, but it wasn't. It just became an everyday occurrence. And so when you're adding, 500, 100 or so, calories per day, empty calories, and that alcohol goes against your whole, recovery and everything. I wasn't exercising or doing anything. It was very sedentary. My wife was trying to drag us out for walks around the block, during that time, and I was, begrudgingly going, but it wasn't like something I was looking forward to. And so again, something just sort of clicked where I wanted to change, and decided to just sort of, I didn't know if it was going to be forever, but I wanted to take a hard break to say, I'm not going to just do it for a month or whatever. I'm going to do it for an extended period of time. And, that extended period of time has now become 2 years. And I think I'm pretty much done with it. I don't see any benefits for it in my life. Not to say that it's, other people can have a good balance, and I'm not against alcohol or anything like that, but to each their own. But for me, it just didn't work, and
Yeah.
that's all. So that kind of started my focus on health. And at that point in time, I was just kind of determined, for whatever reason, to focus on diet, not on exercise. And that worked for me. I was just kind of trying to be a little bit healthier and taking things incrementally, little by little. And so that was working. And then I started to, get interested in some exercise things, started watching your videos, other things on YouTube. And I didn't want to, I was kind of concerned about imposing new rules, if you will, on myself. And I didn't really want to leap right into that. So, I would start doing push-ups once in a while, and that just became a little routine that I started doing, nothing too significant. And then I had an adjustable dumbbell set here in the house. And so I put those dumbbells in a place where I need to walk by them. So out of sight, out of mind, but in sight is, you kind of remember to do things. So I would pick them up and do some things with them once in a while when I thought about it, but I didn't have a program, didn't structure anything like that. Again, I was in a mindset where I was focused on healthy eating and other healthy habits, but I just didn't want to jump into any type of workout type of routine. I'm kind of lazy in that way, and I was resistant to that. But then again, as I did more push-ups and got a little more interested in again, looking at your videos and other things and doing some research, and that transformation challenge, I think I saw the one from, the results from last year, the new year in 23, and that kind of piqued my interest. And then I saw the summer one, and that's before you actually announced the results from the summer one, is when I decided back in probably the September, October timeframe that I was going to do it whenever you announced it for this new year.
Nice.
So I started planning back then to do it. So for me, I sort of said, I committed to doing it in my mind. And I said, you know what? Most people it's going to be a 90-day, 3-month challenge. For me, I'm going to make it a 6-month challenge, and I'm going to work myself up to that. So it's not like day one, I'm out of shape and haven't exercised or things like that. So I'm going to have to get myself ready to kind of hit the ground running when the challenge truly starts. So I did start in October.
What was your, so your before and after pictures are quite striking. I think particularly just because of how much body fat you lose. And I'll give you guys a little secret that you're interested in doing this challenge. For me, I know a lot of guys will overeat, or they'll, have a bunch of sodium, and they know how to make their before pictures look a little softer. But the trick for me is the lower back. The lower back for men, that's where you see real weight loss. And obviously yours, love handles, everything completely gone. I'm sure your pant size went down 6 inches during this.
It did. My belt, I need a new belt. I need new clothes.
How much, I mean, I should probably know this, but what was the total weight loss, let's say from the start of the challenge to the 90 days that we included?
It was 38 pounds. So I went from 190 to 152, which, I had studied the prior videos in terms of, the men and women who had won the challenge. And so I knew that, having abs was going to be key for me. Having, muscle definition and separation was going to be key, but having a good number in terms of, an eye-popping number from a, weight loss perspective was also important. And so I gave myself a very aggressive 20% body weight reduction. So that's how I backed into the 38 pounds from 190 to 152.
Yeah, that's just at about 3 pounds a week. So was there a phase where it was just falling off you, or was it kind of evenly distributed, the weight loss?
I mean, the beginning, I think with most people in the beginning, you have that water weight loss and you gain some momentum from that. I had I was mentally into this from October. So I could not wait to stop eating and let this challenge get started and execute my plan. I didn't know what the result was going to be. You don't kind of know what's under the layer of fat that you have there. I knew what workouts I was doing, and I had hoped that I was, generating, creating a lot of muscle there to then show when it gets peeled off, but you don't quite know. So I was really anxious to get started with that. And, the grass is always greener, right? So 2 weeks into the diet, it's like, I wish I was back when I could eat whatever I wanted to and be in that mode, but
Well, obviously, I mean, the biggest change I noticed with you was Well, you were happy in both pictures, but you really look like you added muscle. Now I know part of that's the illusion of losing the body fat. I actually had people ask me if you ended up doing a bodybuilding show. Did you do one?
I did not do one. This was my bodybuilding show.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
this was my Olympia. This was everything. Like,
yeah.
I think I actually made somebody in the Facebook group had posted like, what's your why or something like in the beginning. And I basically said, this is like Survivor for introverts for me, because I could do everything I want on my own. I can be as out there or as insular as I want to be. And I actually kind of kept a pretty low profile in the Facebook group. I interacted, but I didn't really share my progress with folks until the very, very end.
Yeah.
And that was part of my strategy as well, not to kind of.
That's kind of what inspired me to start the challenge years ago. Was for me entering my first bodybuilding show. That was my first challenge that I ever did with my physique, and my expectation was, okay, I'm going to build some muscle, I'm going to lose some body fat, I'm going to get on a bodybuilding stage, and I'm going to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. What I didn't expect was the skills and the confidence that I got from time management, from, putting myself first, from, I cut out alcohol. All those things changed my life for the better. And that was not my goal. But at the end, that was what I got out of it. I mean,
the positive side effects. Yeah.
It sounds like you were already starting to do that work before this challenge. And this was just your opportunity to kind of ice your, put the icing on the cake, as it were.
It was. So I wanted to kind of, I had something to prove to myself. I wanted to, I was not an athlete growing up. I played, sports. My parents had enrolled me in basketball and baseball, but I wasn't like an athlete, like I didn't play. I was a computer science major. I was a studious person for the most part, and focused on schoolwork and that sort of thing. So I wasn't like an athlete in high school or anything like that. I did have periods where I would exercise. Like I first went to college, and a roommate of mine would go and work out a little bit, but I never stuck with it. I just kind of I was looking for those quick results. Sure. And didn't really invest long term in it. And so after a while, when you don't see results after 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, it's like, okay, I guess I'm a slow gainer or whatever other thing you tell yourself when you want to give up. And
so what is your current profession?
I am a project manager in a corporate role. So
you mentioned computer science, and I was a network administrator in my prior career. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was a developer. I worked in the financial industry for many years. I'm now in a different industry, but I was a developer and sort of evolved into like a project manager, team lead type of person. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the big picture of calories at the start, and then kind of where they got them to. So give me a ballpark of what you had your calories or your macros or whatever method you used at the beginning.
Sure thing. So I was around 1,800 calories to start. Okay. So I do want to mention that my wife and I both participated in the challenge. My wife actually was in the top 10 among the women. And so she decided to join just like a couple of weeks before we started. So my very sort of centrally focused on myself mode kind of shifted a little bit to being coaching her and helping her. So in the beginning, it was kind of both of us getting up to speed on things. And so as I'm actually in the Facebook group for the Summer Sculpt right now and trying to share some lessons learned from the prior challenge there. But one thing for your listeners who haven't done the sort of macro counting is very different than constraining, right? So you can count pretty easily how much did I consume today? And if you only care about counting it, that's one thing. But if you're trying to fit into certain buckets of protein, carbs, and fats, and eating this thing is going to take you over one and be under another, there's a little bit more to it than just counting. So I had to go through that learning curve when I first started. Day one of the challenge, it's like, okay, I have a spreadsheet. So I didn't use any apps. I'm a spreadsheet guy. I had all I like having everything all in one place. So my workout schedule is in a spreadsheet in this whole, huge workbook where I'm tracking everything, tracking my sleep, I had projections about, I know that weight loss is not linear, but I had a linear sort of projection after week 1, I should be here, week 2, I should be here. And I was always tracking according to that and kind of seeing what I needed to make some adjustments. But going back to your question about the macros. So I started out, targeting that 1 gram of protein per body weight. So I started out at 190. So I started a little lower than that 1 gram initially. And I was really super focused on the protein. I thought, protein.
Yeah.
And I was under allocating on carbs in the beginning. And my energy level just really took a nosedive within the first few days. And I needed to make some quick adjustments to say, it's not all about protein. It's
Right.
about a balance. And I needed to take the protein down a little bit and up the carbs a little bit to make sure I had the energy, and then I make sure I was getting those throughout the day to have the energy, because I just was really a few days in a row, just really.
So you mentioned not being an athlete. What did you do in regards to like a cardio plan or a step plan and
Sure.
workouts for this?
Yeah. So from a cardio perspective, I work from home 3 days a week, and I have a treadmill desk. And so I had that before the challenge started. So I had already sort of built up my stamina in terms of walking, and also, both walking on the treadmill as well as outside the house. I mentioned during COVID, I didn't want to walk at all, but walking has become one of my favorite sort of hobbies. I love listening to music and podcasts while walking, and that almost becomes like a therapy for me, just to be able to go out and take a walk, or go on the treadmill and take a walk. So my strategy was to use. I felt that my superpower was I can walk as much as I need to.
Yeah.
Every day to hit whatever goal I need to. So, so for example, when people on the Facebook group would post, "Oh, I did X number of steps today," I'm like, "Great, that's my new goal for today. I'm going to do more steps than your 36,000 steps today because I can."
36,000. Wow. Yeah. That's part of the reason that I love the community aspect, is that these deadlines bring out the competitive side of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. In terms of deadline, having that very distinct start, very distinct end, that hard deadline, I don't know that I could have done this without that, because there wouldn't have been a reason to sort of push myself without having that deadline. And I'm a very competitive person. And so without that competition, I don't know that I would have had the same motivation from beginning to end as well.
Yeah.
But going back to the workout plan. So as I mentioned, back in October is when I had this plan. I started working out 6 days a week. I have a home gym. So I kind of bought some additional equipment for the home gym, pretty simple stuff, but I started working out 6 days a week, and I was pushing myself to do basically 6 sets of every exercise. So it was probably about a 90-minute to 2-hour type of workout that I was doing 6 days a week. And I felt I needed to build muscle mass, and I needed to build up stamina for myself, because I knew when the challenge started, I wasn't going to be able to push myself that hard when I was in a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
And so when the challenge started, I cut all my sets in half. So I went from 6 sets per exercise to 3 sets per exercise. I wasn't sure that based on my research, watching your videos and some other research, I wasn't sure that I really could be gaining new muscle in the calorie deficit, and also with the cardio plan that I had. So I didn't want to overexert myself by sticking to that 6 set and really drain myself. So I cut that in half to the 3 sets, but I kept it to 6 days.
How did your performance maintain? Because based on research, 3 sets should maintain muscle.
So I used a metric of my total volume per day. So I would, in my spreadsheet, I had my everything tracked. So I didn't start tracking, by the way, until October. And so one of the biggest impacts. So for folks who are out there who go to the gym and stuff, if you're not tracking your workouts, I think you're missing out on something. You're not as serious as you probably should be until you start tracking those workouts. And so you can progressively overload for the next time, and you don't have to second guess yourself. What did I do? You don't have to remember it. Have it right there in an app, in a spreadsheet, write it down, whatever it is. You need to be tracking your workouts so you know what you did last time, and you can do a little bit more, whether it's 1 rep, 5 pounds, whatever it is, you can do a little bit more the next time to kind of make that incremental progress. So I was
just curious, how was your performance from the beginning to the end?
I made sure that I was, so the indicators around muscle, my concern about losing lean body mass was one of my top concerns, because I knew I had aggressive, fat loss plan. And so there really were 3 things that I was focused on. Maintaining that protein intake was one. Again, you have videos on this that I studied and took notes on clearly. Making sure that I was keeping up with my workout plan. So keeping that 6 days a week workout to make sure I was sending message to my body. I still did this muscle. Don't burn this muscle, burn the fat, because this muscle is being used. And the third thing was, to your question, I was tracking my total volume per day. And so even though, on a bench press, I might feel a little bit weaker one particular day and couldn't hit the same number of reps as the prior session, I made sure that my total volume was increasing on a daily average, week over week. So that metric was telling me I should not be losing muscle mass if I'm focusing on that. Yeah.
That's great. So when you started out the diet, how long until you had to start making adjustments?
I made adjustments within the first week because
Well, you said you brought the carbs up a little bit.
brought the carbs up. Yeah. And then I think it was after about 2 weeks, I started doing a 50 calorie drop per week. So I
Okay.
made sure that I was aligning my total calories to my weight, because I didn't want to plateau. I didn't want to stay constant with my calories and then plateau. So I was always going down in calories as my weight went down and kind of keeping that in lockstep. And so the protein, fewer changes on the protein, but took away fat, took away carbs. I was trying not to go too deeply on the calories to start, because once you go too low, there's nothing else you can cut. So I wanted to do it sort of slowly but surely, take that down so that my body was not getting used to anything, but I was constantly in that same sort of calorie deficit.
Did you use any type of recovery, diet break, refeed strategies throughout this? Did you give yourself any like little breaks?
I did over the Easter holiday. So over that weekend, we actually went to visit some family, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to weigh food. We're just going to, for that Saturday and Sunday in particular, I'm just going to have whatever, not going to go crazy, but I'm just going to eat a meal. We were going out to dinner on the night before. And so Monday, or even Sunday night, getting back and doing a workout on that Sunday night, my strength was increased. My energy was increased. It felt great. But my weight kind of plateaued for about a week. So I didn't see much movement in the scale for about a week, and my hunger it ticked up. So I was a little more hungry in those first few days after that break, because at first I was thinking we should do this again. Again, my wife and I were both doing the same thing here. And I'm like, maybe we'll do it again sort of the end of April. But after that, it was a little bit, I was concerned about that plateau in the weight loss, because I was not on track. I was now tracking less aggressively to my goal. And so I did have one other day where it was like an unplanned activity where I brought a couple of protein bars, but I didn't plan for like a full day of eating.
Yeah.
And I ate healthy then, but I ate much more than I should have. And that kind of caused another plateau later in the month of April. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you had a very good mindset going into this. Obviously you did like a flexible approach where you and your wife eat a very similar diet. So was she helping out with meal prep as well?
Yeah. So interesting. She and I are quite different in that I can eat a lot of the same things meal after meal. My wife needs more variety.
Yeah.
So I bought a bunch of glass bowls and all this. I thought we would do like true meal prep and have dinners and lunches ready to go. But she is not one to eat the same type of thing. So we did more sort of component meal prep, where I'd always have grilled chicken. I'd always have some type of protein ready to go. We'd have other things that we can put together to make a meal out of it, as opposed to having the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But for me personally, my breakfast and my lunch were generally the same.
Yeah.
I start every day with a protein shake. I guess I would consider that sort of my first thing as a snack. I have a protein shake to start my day. I then I make overnight oats. So I have oatmeal, yogurt, and some type of berries as my breakfast. And I find that sustains me in terms of energy and satiation for the good part of the morning. I'll then have like an apple or a piece of fruit, late morning, early afternoon before my lunch. And my lunch was generally like a mixed green salad with whatever protein that we had, either left over from the prior dinner or whatever. Again, I always had either raw chicken or grilled chicken ready to go to throw into a salad. So that was kind of my main staple. And if I had to go to work, I would like bring a salad with me. So I was always prepared for those days that I was in the office. Again, I was in the office 2 days a week. So I made sure I was prepared with things. We had good options there in the office too, like high protein yogurts and things like that as well, and fruit. But key to that is when you're not in the house, to be prepared, have options, because you don't know when you might get stuck and not be able to eat something that fits into your macros. And then for dinner, dinner was more of our family time.
Yeah. And
I have 4 children, 2 of which are older and don't live with me here. My other son he was in college. He's back now. And then a younger daughter who's 11. So we would eat, have dinner together, and my daughter, very, very flexible with her eating as well. So she was able to, she ate whatever we ate. She's pretty open-minded in terms of food. So that's when we would sort of come together with our meal. And then in the evening, I started out having protein shakes, but then my friend, Matt Herrera from the Facebook group recommended the Ninja Creamy, which you should partner with them because everybody in the Facebook group is always raving about this and sharing recipes and things like that. So it's a great way to take a protein shake, turn it into an ice cream. So you're eating a bowl of ice cream every night. That's, you know, everything that goes into it. It fits your macros. And so you can have whatever, you know, protein, you know, carb and fat content you want, is whatever quantity of that fits your macros. So that became, and still to this day, is I make that practically every single day, and we look forward to having that, something different like that every single night. Yeah.
That's great to hear. So I want to talk about the transition since the challenge has ended. So it sounds like your calories did get pretty low, like towards the end there. You said what, 1,400?
No, I was about 1,500. Yeah.
Oh, 1,500.
So
okay.
I tried not to go below the 10x of my.
Okay, so you did that, and then what was your step count or your cardio towards the very end?
Well, towards the very end, I lightened up a little bit because, like in the last 2 weeks, because I was already so one of my goals, if you remember, somebody had done the math to say, if you walk an average of 11,111 steps over the 90 days, that's going to give you a million steps. And so I set my goal to be 2 million steps, which would be 22,222. So my daily average was around 25. I actually exceeded that. My daily average was around 25,000 steps. Wow. I had some days where I was really, I really had a high step count. In fact, on my birthday, I turned 54 during the challenge. And on my birthday, this is going to sound kind of odd, but on my birthday, I want to do something special. And I walked 54,000 steps on my birthday. I
knew before you said it was going to be your age. I knew it.
I worked out a plan in my spreadsheet. I said, this is how many steps I need to go per hour. You know, I don't want to be walking till midnight. So I kind of, you know, planned it out. I planned out, you know, shoe changes and things like that to make sure that I wasn't going to have any injuries and blisters and things like that. And so, yeah, that worked out very well. I did over 4,000 steps on my birthday. So yeah, my step count was really great. I ended up with 2.2 million steps over the span of the challenge. So I know that's a lot for your listeners.
No,
that was part of my plan though. I knew
something I've never thought of the total number of steps in a given period. You know, we pay attention to the daily.
Sure. Yeah. The daily was around 25,000, just under 25,000. Toward the end there, I kind of trailed off a little bit, but most days it was over 20,000 steps. So
when you get to the end of the challenge, obviously you've made these major transitions. You're not drinking, you're having your creamies, you're doing a lot of steps. What changed after the 90 days ended? Or did you just kind of start to bring your food up, or what'd you adjust?
So I was concerned after that, you know, we talked about the diet break around the Easter holiday, and I was concerned that, you know, my hunger kind of spiked after that. And the good thing about that is that I had that experience already. And so that was in the back of my mind, that I don't want to create that scenario again, you know, post the challenge. And so the nice thing about tracking all of your food intake is that you have a log of everything you ate. So I knew what 1,600 calories looked like from 2 weeks ago, and I knew what 1,700 calories looked like. So I just needed to go back to look at what I was doing 2 weeks ago, and I was able to add those things back in that I had taken out. So, you know, I talked about, like, for example, I have this oatmeal overnight oats thing for breakfast. I had to take out some of the, you know, chia seeds and other things that I add into that because of the fat content, and those things all add up to calories. So I'm able to add those back in now as I'm ramping my calories back up. So it was a pretty smooth transition for me. And I'm at a point right now, I guess we're 3 or so weeks out from the end of the challenge. I'm not weighing things right now. I'm going more instinctively. I do weigh myself. I weigh myself twice a day, first thing in the morning. And then in the evening, I weigh myself. I don't like surprises. So I just like to have an idea of what's to come the next day if I need to make some changes and things like that. And I am practicing this instinctive eating in portion sizes. I'm very familiar with what I was weighing before. So, and I'm eating a lot of the same things. So I haven't gone crazy. Now that the challenge is over, I can just eat a whole pizza. I'm not that type of person. I don't like to have a huge appetite. I don't like to feel like I've overeaten and stuff like that. So I keep things pretty moderate.
You're actually like the perfect example. You know, sometimes when I do these challenges, I worry, like, okay, if the people that are placing well aren't fitting kind of our, you know, what I think would be representing well for other people, but you have a perfect kind of mindset around this. So it's very exciting for me that you've incorporated it into your life. You had all this success, and the competition is over, and you're just still rolling right along. And a lot of people use the term, you know, you know, because I coach a lot of athletes, and one of my concerns is when an athlete says, "Coach, I just want to eat intuitively for a while." And the reason that's a concern for me is because we can think of intuition as our hunger signals. Those are going to be kind of thrown off based on what you eat, especially after a long dieting phase. But tracking your diet for months, you have a much better handle on intuition than the average person. So
You know,
I don't
what the
I don't
protein
track
portion
year
really
round.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
I could probably at this point get stage lean without tracking anything. The reason I honestly track is to make sure I'm not eating too little, right? I track to make sure I'm getting enough protein, enough carbs, enough fats. I have zero issues restricting calories. But I'm like you, I'm competitive. I'll probably overdo it if I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
So what is your
I've had that concern about not getting enough protein. So
yeah.
that is the other side where, when you're not tracking, I think I fall into the same camp as you're describing, where by not tracking, I'm not going to overdo it. I might underdo it, or at least be concerned about under consuming protein, and I don't want to lose muscle mass. And so I am conscious of that, but I'm not weighing out things and tracking it in that way. But
Yeah. But you get so good at, once you prep your meals for so long, you get really good at eyeballing things. And so the other thing that, you know, when these challenges end, what can be a problem is you've had this focus for, obviously for you, for 6 months.
Yeah.
So how are you transitioning that into this next phase for you?
That's a great question. And I think I probably am struggling with that a little bit. I've been very much looking forward to this interview. And so that's kind of kept my mind occupied to sort of focus on this and anticipate the questions and answers and such. And so I'm kind of reflecting on how I want to apply what I've learned from this in some way to continue to make my life better in some other facet of my life. So what I proved to myself is that with this planning and this focus, I really can accomplish anything I want to accomplish. And so it's a model and a framework that I can apply to something else. What that something else is, I haven't quite figured out yet. I'm still, thinking about that, but I do now certainly have the confidence that with that laser focus and planning, that I believe that I can do anything that I want to do.
And this is another reason why I did the challenge. When I was 32 and I was 31 when I decided to do my first bodybuilding show, and I kind of cut out all the, that was the peak of my social life, single, having fun all the time, multiple sports leagues. And my life was about going to work 40 hours a week and enjoying the crap out of my life outside of work. So work was not the focus. I was the typical show up at 8, leave at 5 guy. And
Okay.
I had a fine career and I was doing fine. But what I noticed was, like what you said about, I took what I applied to the bodybuilding and I said, okay, I want this career. I ended up going back to school. I ended up, volunteering for more stuff at work, getting multiple promotions, starting my own business. So you start to take these lessons learned from something, as arbitrary as, even people will say, that's so silly to do a bodybuilding show, or why do you waste your time getting shredded? They miss the point of it. And that is, we become a better version of ourselves when we learn to set goals and achieve them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's really no substitute when it's all on you, right? It's you're going to make or break or do this. You're not depending upon other people. I certainly thank my family for their support, and I'm not dismissing that, or the support of the Facebook group and so forth. But ultimately, you're making a decision about doing that workout, putting that intensity into it, whatever you're going to put on your plate and what you're going to consume or not consume, as the case may be, with a goal to, sort of delaying that gratification, because your goal is more important than whatever you do or don't want to do on this particular
100%.
day.
Yeah.
And that lesson can be applied in so many different ways in life, that I think there's a lot of benefit to that. Absolutely.
Maybe you'll take up golf or become a professional guitar player, whatever you apply it to. That's awesome. And I don't know, maybe you even do a bodybuilding show, because you look pretty damn good, man. I'm not gonna lie. A couple of people asked me, like, is he doing a show? And I said, honestly, I don't know.
I do need to look into that. I think I've learned a lot in this space, and I'm interested in applying that in some way. In what way, I don't quite know yet.
Yeah.
whether it's for myself or sort of, I do like helping others. And so there's some potential avenue there as well. But for right now, I'm enjoying being part of the Summer Sculpt Facebook group there. I'm sharing some lessons learned, helping to answer some questions, because I was in that place,
Yeah.
back in February when this started. And I kind of know that mindset and know the excitement of when it all starts, but also a lot of the not knowing what's next. So be able to share that is really beneficial.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll be curious to see how the 8 weeks translates to, so this challenge, we had about a 5% increase in the number of people that submitted a final submission, right? So that's kind of
Okay.
how we are gauging the success. Like we have X amount enter, X amount do a final submission. We want to keep increasing that final submission. So we're going to see how the 8 weeks goes. We're still going to do the 90 days. In I think February, we're going to start it again.
Okay.
We did it the day after the Super Bowl. I think that was actually low key genius. I had so many people being like, well, I want to do it, but I want to watch the Super Bowl and have fun. And I said, you know what? Perfect. Super Bowl Sunday, you start on Monday.
Yeah.
Um,
And it ended on Mother's Day. And so we did our final pictures on that Saturday before Mother's Day. And so we had a nice brunch on Mother's Day. Didn't need to worry about anything. So it was really nicely bookmarked by those two events.
Yep. So we're going to keep that one the same. The 8 week Summer Sculpt is, we'll see how that goes. But so far the response has been really good. We'll learn what we learn. And I'm doing my first live video on Friday with the group. So we'll get in there and answer some questions. So anything else you want to share about your journey? Any thoughts, anything I didn't bring up that you think are relevant?
I guess when it comes to, I think we talked about the total weight loss being 38 pounds. And I've had some family remark to me about how amazing I look in the pictures. And I need to remind people that I'm 6 feet, 152 pounds in those pictures. So it's important for people to remember that there is, and you talk about this in your videos on YouTube and other places as well. When you get to a low body fat percentage and you have this muscle separation, it's really so interesting how you look large when you don't have that shirt on. You look so much bigger than you really are, but really it's
the questions that you're going to get because of that are going to be around, did you use hormone therapy replacement? TRT has become like buying creatine, right? It's something that a lot of people are doing. So, we kind of discussed it off podcast, but share your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah. So my testosterone levels, I had my blood work done back in August of last year. I had it done 2 weeks ago, right after the challenge. I was curious about how it had changed. It didn't change dramatically. I am not on TRT. I've never taken steroids in my life, never needed to. And so, never wanted to. I'm focused on longevity. I'm 54 years old right now. I'm in a much healthier place than I was, as I mentioned, just 2 years ago. I want to live a long, healthy, productive life. I do not want to, compromise or complicate that with drugs just for some superficial reason. So that's not part of my lifestyle whatsoever. I do understand that people who haven't been at that low body fat percentage might have that impression. But again, being 6 feet tall and 152 pounds,
right?
The illusion is very.
Well, and you're not someone who's been a bodybuilder for 30 years, right? So you're resistance training is on the newer side for you. So
it is. Yeah.
This is where I think the confusion lies, especially in my field, especially in today's environment where TRT, listen, my best friend in the whole world had double testicular cancer. He's been on TRT for more than a decade because he has to.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I have no
medical
problem.
reasons for it. Yeah.
Of course, it's a miracle drug. Like absolutely it is. But it's a rather new science. And I'm still a little nervous about getting involved in something that's kind of new. I'm 48, lifetime natural. And honestly, I feel the best I've ever felt. Now I have been in the gym for 30 years. So when I diet down, I'm closer to 200 pounds at 6'3", which is a decent physique. I do well at bodybuilding, but there's guys that are much more dense and more muscular than me. And even they will get the questions, the remarks. But I'm just a firm believer, and this is a meritocracy. Like the longer you are consistent in the gym, consistent with your diet, your body is changing over that time. So it's going to be really fun to see your journey now that you've kind of got these tools and this motivation and
thank you.
What you do next.
Thank you. I just want to call out, the content that you produce is on YouTube in particular. That's really where I found you and watch most of your information there. I really do enjoy, appreciate, and respect that you cut through a lot of the BS. You give people really solid science-backed information. not some of this bogus other stuff that other influencers are pitching. And that's what made me start to subscribe to your channel, start to listen to what you were saying, and really, that created a turning point for me. So I really want to thank you on behalf of your other listeners, watchers, et cetera, that, look at your content and really look forward to those next videos like I do, because you are sharing a lot of great information that if people take it and apply it, and that consistency is key. It's not just doing it for a few days or a few weeks. It's sticking with it. The basics work. Again, as I mentioned, I have a home gym. I have nothing special here. No special machines are needed. If you have that consistency and you lift those weights and you focus on your diet, if all those things come together, you eventually will see results. And so that's what you're sharing in almost every one of your videos. And I'm an example of someone who, didn't want to get up off the couch. And yeah, that was, 2+ years ago, and it's changed my life. And really want to thank you for, the content you're producing, and to encourage other people if they want to jump into the challenge. I think it's a great, first of all, the Facebook group is spectacular. The most supportive group of people that I've ever met on the internet. There is like zero negativity there. Everyone is so supportive. It's competitive, but people are helping each other, answering questions. It's really a unique place from people of all shapes, sizes, ages, backgrounds, places in the world. It's really remarkable. The people that you're attracting are wonderful people, which I think is a testament to the message that you're sending.
Yeah, I mean, all the coaches that get in there and help, all the participants that get in there and share their journeys. I mean, it's motivating for me. I love going in there and, people sharing recipes, people picking each other up when they've had a bad day. We've had a couple people, go through some, loss of a family, or, get sick, and, so that's, for me, someone told me years ago that content is king, but community is kingdom. And I've always focused on the community that we built around this lifestyle, this sport. So in the future, I hope to be doing a live event and inviting everybody to come and meet up and do these kind of things. So
I'd be all in on that. So
awesome. Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for all that you do. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I'm proud of you, and I can't wait to take part in the new group. I'll be in there this week, and I'll
excellent. Looking forward to that.
Talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Thanks, Paul.